make a video for the brand new Bible reader. Maybe you've never opened a Bible before. Maybe it just is too overwhelming. It sounds like a bunch of gibberish when you open it. But I just wanted to break down the structure of the Bible because it's something I wish I would have known going into reading the Bible. It would have helped make a lot more sense for me. So for starters, I highly recommend the New Living Translation. This is going to be the easiest, most clear, understanding Word of God for a beginner. But there's nothing wrong with the New King James Version either. I actually highlighted the table of contents so you can take a screenshot for future Bible study notes. Okay, so what is the Old Testament, the New Testament? What is the difference between these two books? It's not a book that you typically would read from front to finish. I mean, you can, but you're probably going to end up highly confused, and a lot of people give up after the first few chapters because it's just confusing if you don't understand the foundation. For the sake of time, this is a very brief breakdown of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Okay, this is for the brand new reader of the Bible. So, the Old Testament. There's 39 books in the Old Testament. This is all of the word written before the birth of Jesus Christ. So everything in the Old Testament is before Jesus Christ was born. And this covers things like creation, the very beginning of everything, of mankind, and God's will, his intention for mankind, and then the fall of mankind. Of course, in the book of Genesis, when Adam and Eve choose to fall into temptation instead of living through God's will, putting them out of the Garden of Eden. From that point forward, humanity's rebellion and just kind of what happens to humanity when they're living through sin. It also teaches us about the law. This is where like the book of Abraham and Moses and those books are going to be in the Old Testament, okay? I don't recommend starting in the Old Testament, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. Then it goes on to teach us about God's promise and the covenant of the Old Testament, and goes into the prophets. There is major and minor prophets, not due to the significance, but due to the length of each book, starting with Isaiah, ending with Malachi, and these prophets set up the stage for the New Testament because they are prophesizing what is going to happen in the future, and it sets the stage for the New Testament, for Jesus Christ to come and fulfill the prophets of the Old Testament. Then some people kind of look at it as like the Old Testament, the New Testament, and then there's the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs, kind of like in the middle, but not really. It's still part of the Old Testament. So the book of Psalms is a compilation of prayers, songs, and written by a multitude of different people. Some authors unknown. A lot is written by King David, and it's kind of looked at as like a book of prayer. It is great. The book of Psalms, it's awesome. Okay, and then we go into the book of Proverbs. There's 31 proverbs. I like to read each proverb for that day. So if it's May 14th, I read Proverb 14 for that day. The Proverbs are written by Solomon, which is the son of King David, the king of Israel, and he wrote other books too, but that teaches us about wisdom, discipline, and some of his other books just kind of teach us about the wrestling of life's purpose. Okay, then we go into the New Testament. This is from the beginning of the birth of Jesus Christ. This is where all of the New Testament fulfills the prophecies of the Old Testament, starting with the Gospel. The Gospel is the first 4 books in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okay? This is the living Word of God. This is the Word of Jesus Christ, written by 4 different apostles that were there by Jesus Christ's side. This is their testimony, and this is where I recommend every new beginner start, because this will lay the foundation for the rest of the Bible. It'll make everything make so much more sense, because it is literally the Old Testament's prophecies coming true through Jesus Christ. So I highly recommend to start with the book of John, and then you can kind of move around and figure out where you want to go next. I'll probably make another video of like where I would start in order for reading the Bible, but for time's sake, we're going to just start with the book of John, because this is the living Word of Jesus Christ and the miracles that he performed and the prophecies that he fulfilled. Next goes in the New Testament goes into the book of Acts. This is the history of the Christian church, of the beginning of the Christian church. This is the spread of the gospel, okay? The next set of books are actually letters. They are referred to as the epistles. Majority of them written by Paul, such as like the book of Romans, the Corinthians, Galatians, all of those. Okay, so these are letters written from and to the churches, the believers, pastors, and some of them even written from prison. So those are the letters of the New Testament. And then it goes into the book of Revelations, which is a prophecy of the end times. And basically, most people know what the book of Revelations is. It is the most debated in the Bible by far. It is the final book in the Bible, which is often referred to as the end of times, and it has prophecies such as visions, spiritual warfare, massive spiritual warfare, judgment, and the defeat of evil, where God fulfills his promise to restore creation. If I had to break down the whole Bible in one sentence, I would say the Bible is the story of humankind's separation from God and God's plan to restore that relationship through Jesus Christ. Hope that helps any beginner, and I'm going to go ahead and make a series of different parts of the Bible. But for the structure and breakdown, that's the Old Testament and the New Testament in short terms.